Hey, I am so excited about the episode I have for you today. But before I dive in, let's talk guilt. Because us moms are really, really good at guilt. We have mom guilt, we have woman guilt, we have guilt, friend guilt, we have guilt, personal guilt. We have guilt in every areas of our lives that stop us from really having a great life. We think about, while we're at work, we think about our kids. When we're with our kids, we think about work. And by work, I mean all of the hats that we wear, whatever hat you may have. We allow guilt to stop us so many times. And I want you to join our workshop this coming week. It is how to remove guilt from our everyday lives. What becomes possible when you don't feel guilty about what you're doing, where you're going, what you're saying, who you are? What becomes possible when you remove that guilt? We'll join our workshop and let's find out. With that, let's dive in. We're going to talk about the Enneagram today. Reach out to me if you have any questions about the upcoming workshop. Let's do this. Hey, welcome to Her Restored Spirit Podcast. My name is Tammy and I'm your host. And today we're going to dive into this is a hot topic. This is a topic that I think polarizes a lot of groups. And I wanted to explain my position on it. And the question is, as a Christian, should I use the Enneagram? So I do believe that the Bible is complete. I do believe that the Bible is the living word of God. I also believe that there are tools that we can use that are enlightened, that follow science. I feel like there's tools that we can use that help us understand ourselves better. And with that, we can understand how God made us. I've talked about how I came about with the Enneagram and how it was months before I actually took the assessment. I heard about it. I heard a podcast. I heard about it through Christians First. And this is important because from the very beginning, everything I learned about it pointed right back to Christ. It pointed right back to where are our flaws? Where are our shortcomings? What are our fears? And how did Christ already answer them? Now, I want you to just think about it a little bit, because I know even like yoga, I have a group of my Christian friends who won't even do yoga poses because they feel that they are, in the spiritual realm. And I believe that where your heart is, your words, your thoughts follow. I believe that the yoga poses are scientifically proven to help your body. When I do yoga, which I'm not very good at it because I'm not very flexible, I don't do the chanting. During the meditation, I pray to God, and I'm focused on thanking Him for the body He gave me and how do I use it better. When we do mindfulness and meditation, and to me, this means like sitting in silence with the Creator. And when I looked at the Enneagram, when I was researching and when I started learning about the Enneagram, it was in response to, why do I do the things I do? If God made me this way, then what for? Why do I make the decisions that I made? And as many of you know, it took me a while to take the assessment. And then when I took the assessment, I took several of them because I didn't want to be an Enneagram 1. I didn't want to be a perfectionist. I didn't want to be an improver, but it resonated. But one thing that the Enneagram does for us is it allows us, it's easy for us to see our flaws. And it helps us to highlight those in a way that we can see why we have those, how we can connect. Those are kind of our thorn in the side, like Paul describes. And we can use the Enneagram. Now, when I use it in my practice, I don't dive into the spiritual side of it. There's a lot of pagan things in a lot of the world. And honestly, there's so many things like, hello, Christmas. How many Christians go all out for Christmas? And it was rooted in a paganistic holiday. How many Christians go all in for Halloween? And it is absolutely a pagan holiday. And yet they can still do that and be Christian. It's because we take what we want from it. Now, we can't do that with the Bible. We take it as the complete work. But these other tools that we have, that I truly believe God has allowed us human beings to discover them, because He is the creator of all things. I don't look at the Enneagram much different than Myers-Briggs, than the color, than the animal, than the disc. It is a tool to know your core motivations. And when you know your core motivations, you are given the ability to react instead of respond. No, switch that. You're able to respond instead of react. You're able to understand, okay, I am in stress right now. This is not how I want to act, and step back. It's a way to have grace and compassion for others, because they don't see the world the same way you do. Even two Enneagram 1s, we do not see the world completely the same way. We happen to have similar motivations, similar core fears, but our experiences and our wings and our, the different parts of the flavor of us really points it to a different direction. And I use it as a way for us to understand ourselves better. And I do believe if you don't want to use the Enneagram, that is fine. We explore it as a tool. It has helped so many people see what's going on in their heads, see their fears, and make a radical change. Understand, okay, these are the verses that speak directly to my core fears. These are the ways that God has already overcome these for me. He knew that I would have these fears, and these are the verses that spoke to me. I think there's a lot of power in that. There's power in knowledge and understanding why and understanding what. And this is just another way. It's another tool. It's another avenue, another thing that we can use to understand and point our lives back to Jesus, back to the way that He wants us to be, the way that stepping into who He's created us to be, so we can step into our strengths, so we can step out of our fears, so we can renew our thoughts. This is why I also pair it with neurocoaching, with the neuroscience of renewing your mind, which it's so fascinating that neuroscience is finally catching up with the Bible. We knew they would eventually, right? We knew it was coming. But I think there's so many gifts in stepping out and looking at things from a different perspective. And the Enneagram allows that to happen. It allows us to really explore in a way that's like, okay, I can separate this from my being a little bit and see, why do I do what I do? And then when I do that, I can choose. Do I stick with this path? Do I like the way this is? Or do I want to explore a different way? How did the dots all line up? And how do I get out of these being typecasted that I've been my whole life? I want to change. Well, practical ways to change are you've got to start identifying specific things that you can recognize and you can rewire. Well, this is why the Enneagram is such a beautiful thing, is because it immediately gives you things that you can identify. It immediately gives you things that you can focus on, and you can see, okay, God, what do you want from me here? Using Enneagram 1 as an example, not an excuse. An example is the inner critic that I have. The constant berating of, like, you're not good enough. You can do that better. let's try this again. See all the mistakes you're making. I know now that when I hear those voices, it is not from God. It is not because I'm fallen short of who he's called me to be. It is external. It is the fears. It is what I need to go to him to say, Lord, show me where you are worthy. You fill my imperfections. And that has brought me closer to Christ, because now I can get real with him in that this is my weakness. This is my fear. Lord, speak over me, feel me, like take this, show me how to change it. And so this is one of the ways that I use the Enneagram as a Christian. You can go too far with it. It is fascinating. I love going deep with things and just seeing the connections. In fact, I love doing it with the Bible too, going through and seeing this relates to this and relates to this, and which references this. Like, I love following these paths, and you can go really deep with the Enneagram. It goes deep, and there's a lot there, and sure, you can. And if it takes over your quiet time, if you're spending more time on a tool, any tool, people can use the Myers-Briggs or the DISC like the same way, and where that takes precedent over the Bible for answers. When that happens, now you've gone too far. Now it becomes a stronghold, and you need to avoid it. So there are some people who the astrology and things like that, those are. You have to be careful with those, and telling the future and all of that. And God doesn't say it doesn't exist. He says to stay away from it. I don't see this. There's nothing in the Enneagram that tells me how I'm going to be. There's nothing in the Enneagram that tells me who I am, because I am a child of God. Only he gets to decide that. He gets to define that. And it also shows me how he made me, how he wired me. What are my flaws? How do I see the world? How do I, when I am partnering with somebody and I can see that they see the world a different way, we have a common language we can speak. Now, there's reasons why I actually like the Enneagram better than the Myers-Briggs, than the DISC, because both of those, I feel like as you go through life experiences, you can change. I have become more judging than thinking, or I used to be more extroverted. Now I'm more introverted. So that can shift over time. The Enneagram is at your core. It's nature versus nurture. And though you can shift how you respond to it, you always know, okay, this will always be one of the core fears that I hold. So I know daily that I go to Jesus for this. When I recognize that I have not gone to him daily for this, I know I have an insight. I have an initial, I can find the triggers. I can target the problem quicker and get back on track and get back on my knees and see how he's created me. Now, as we go throughout the Enneagram, and a lot of people are walking around and staring at me because I'm in my car. This is one of the episodes that I actually recorded earlier today, and my computer went kaput. Not kaput, I did have to go to a restore, and Zoom was not able to save any of my files, which made me really sad, because I worked really hard on giving you great information. And now I feel like I'm trying to reach and remember what I said instead of allowing it to completely come naturally. And so many times we need to look at what part of the Enneagram do we not like? And are we picking and choosing? Are we using it as a way to judge because we don't understand? There are people, I have family members who do not watch TV because they believe it's of the world, which, let's face it, they're not wrong, and they don't celebrate Christmas because they feel it's worshiping Santa and the tree. You bow down with gifts versus elevating and giving God the gifts and God praise and God the sacrifices. And so they don't believe in that, which is, again, when you look at the roots of Christmas, they are pagan. And so you kind of gotta ask yourself, like, if you're going to say, I'm not gonna do this, what is the purpose behind it? Now, will it be a stronghold for you? And if you can say yes, then stay away from it. Stay away from yoga, stay away from meditation, stay away from affirmations, stay away from, those things, whatever is going to become a stronghold for you. But understand and ask someone and determine, like, use the facts before you're just cut off and before you shame people for using a tool or not using a tool, or believing in something or not believing in something, and understand, like, where they're coming from, what their heart is, what it has done for them. And I find that it's actually really important in the process, in the journey that I take my clients in. One of the first things we do is we go through the Enneagram and understand our number. And then once we do that, get those initial recognitions. It's not a word. Once we initially recognize some of our fears, we have a starting point and we have a path we can go through for transformation, to go to God and to transform and rewire our thoughts to make them healthy, to make them uplifting, to step into who God has created us to be. And I just know that when I looked at the Enneagram and when I really started looking at it without judgment, I was still in active grief. And I wanted to know why. Why was it so easy for some to get through their grief? And why was it hard for me? And this is a question that so many people have come to me and asked. And when I looked and I studied the Enneagram, I realized that the words of affirmation, those getting that, that uplifting, that filling, that was one of the things that my husband would do, is he would affirm me all the time. And I was missing that. And all I heard in my head is, you're not good enough. You're not being strong enough for your kids. You fall short here. And look at what you did there. And it's never enough. When I discovered that that's what I was missing, when I was needing that, I was able to get on my knees and I was able to say, okay, God, I know that I'm enough because you're enough. I know that I'm not expected to do things right. And I know that you can heal me. Show me how to do it. Tell me, put people in my life. Why do I do the things that I do? And the Enneagram was a tool that I used, and the transformation and the healing that I got, not from the tool, but using it to help me ask God, for him to show, okay, this is why you handle it this way. And how do you want to handle it? What would be better? And I was able to find verses that spoke to my heart, because I knew exactly what I needed to hear. I knew where I was falling short and what my fears were, and how God was waiting for me to say, come child, I got you. And through all of it, I was close with God. Like I had a strong relationship with God before all of this. I've had multiple of trials that brought me back to God. And this one, from the moment I heard, I felt God on me. Like I felt him holding me up and telling me that this is going to be okay. And so when I kept doing the same things and I kept trying so hard to do it right and kept falling short, the Enneagram was able to help me see the connection of what I was missing and what I needed to ask God for. It was able to just highlight. And I can't even tell you how much it's helped me with parenting. Having an 8 for a son who I know that he controls in order to be controlled. He doesn't like to be controlled. He likes to be right, which what teenage boy doesn't? But I'm able to understand, okay, like he clearly doesn't get how this works. And so he's trying to control a situation that it's not his place to control. So it gives me a vocabulary and a conversation starter with him. My daughter, who's a 4, who her highs are high and her lows are just as low as her highs are high. And so being aware of that, I don't have to be afraid of her melancholy, that I know that sometimes she just is going to be sad. That's just her. And it doesn't mean I need to fix it. It does mean I need to listen to it a little bit, and I need to guide her. And then I need to talk to her and tell her and help her work through and see, okay, so how was that for you? Did it get what you want? What do you think you do next time? And it just gives us a vocabulary. It gives me an understanding of how they see the world, what their core fears are. And so I can help them at a younger age go to God with them. Here are some, we found verses that speak to their heart, that they can go to when they're feeling stressed. I can pinpoint when they start stressed. I can see, because we talked about the things that they do. We talked about the things that happen, the way they feel, the way they act. And so parenting through the Enneagram has really helped me understand and step back and say, okay, I'm seeing this different. I see the world completely different than the way they do. How do they see it? How did they interpret this situation? And how can I show them a different way? Notice I didn't say right way or the wrong way. Like, it's just different. How can I open their paradigm? How can I open their world to bring a little bit more perspective to them? How can I help them step outside of this box? Because let's face it, as teenagers, none of us are healthy. But how can we start to understand and see when we are stressed? So I just wanted to come on and I wanted to share my heart about the Enneagram, because I do believe it is a very useful tool. It is not one that I put over the Bible. It's not one I don't go to the Enneagram first before I go to God. And I also believe that understanding your core fears and your motivations, it directly points to how God created you. You can feel and you can identify that the thorn in the side, like Paul did. And then now you have a way to recognize it and move away and get connected to Christ in a incredibly strong way, because he made you this way for a reason. He did. And so why are we fighting understanding who he created us to be? So that's I just wanted to share my heart, because I've had a lot of friends on my Facebook and message me, or even in conversation, being like, that is of the devil and I will not listen to anything, and which is their prerogative. I don't even do the Enneagram with every client. If they're not interested, then we don't do that. And a lot of times it'll come up later and say, okay, it's a tool that helps us get to the next level. Are you ready? And then they want to. When they see that we're not trying to avoid God in this situation or do something better, because what is better? But we just want to use everything at our disposal. I am really tired. I've been up since before 5 a.m. this morning, and it is 8:15, and I am at basketball practice. So I'm just using my time here. Maybe I'll even take a nap before she comes. We got another 30 minutes plus. But I just wanted to share my heart about it, because if you're on the fence about the Enneagram, if you want to know more, and if you are afraid, because if you have those questions, it is not bad to ask them. When we judge without understanding, we limit our own thoughts. We limit our own possibilities. We limit how we can respond to people, and people can feel the judgment and it turns people off. And so if you have any questions about the Enneagram, and I'm going to start talking more and more about it, just because it is such a useful tool, and it's fun and it's different and it gets to the heart of things quick. So if you want to know more about it, reach out to me. Let's talk. Let's DM me or get on here and click on the contact Tammy and let's talk. Let's get on a phone call, a Zoom call for 20 minutes and see what's possible. You can ask her questions and you can see how can the Enneagram help me, or how can understanding my core fears, because we don't even need to dive into the Enneagram much. If we can just use it to understand the core fears, we can take it and we can take it from there. But I just felt it was important because don't feel ashamed if you're interested. And if you have read about it and your conviction is that it's wrong, then that's also your prerogative. But you don't know what people have been through. You don't know what their story is. And if it does help them see how God actually created them, the things that they think are weaknesses are actually strengths, and gives them the ability to step into who God created them to be, who would want to take that away from them? So that's what I have about the Enneagram for now, for today. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll say evening because it is evening now. But I just want to say, choose joy until joy chooses you.